Start off because you guys are doing video tutorials, right? And so essentially, talk to Steven about what he want to do for his video tutorial. Okay. And so he is cousins with Officer Costa here. So that's kind of how it all started. And so we had a conversation, Steve and I did, when I said like, oh yeah, I visited him last spring. He was very helpful and did a presentation with the senior interns that were learning about drones. Okay, so that's kind of my background on this introduction. So I'll go ahead and throw it to Stephen just to introduce Officer Costa.
I'm Stephen Papagno. I am cousins with Officer Costa here. I saw a video on Instagram about how we did like a drone thing, whatever was on the news a few minutes ago. And then, like, long story short, I talked to Mr. Wong about like the drone things, and you found out that I was cousins here with Sage. So I'm gonna throw it to Sage now.
Mr. Wong, and thank you guys for being here. And I guess this is a little disturbance in your class, but we'll make it do. So I'm interested in whatever questions you guys have for the drone program or any drones in general. We could talk about the Burlington Police Department's drone, how we started to our growth now, and where we want to go in the future. And just drones throughout the country, either if it's consumer, hobby, or even police and fire, so public safety. So I'm here for any questions you got, and just I can talk about my background and where we're at.
Number one, what got you interested in drones?
So I guess it was a couple years ago. Just I knew that drones were up and coming. I believe at the time they were far and few between. They're either big money or really high on consumer markets, or the hobbyist ones were still just coming out with the Inspires, the movie making ones, Phantoms, all the DJI models. So I just heard about them, and I, just from a patrol perspective and police, I believe that could have been a very good benefit for law enforcement and how we can help serve the community. Everything with law enforcement, especially from a patrol division, actually throughout, is officer safety, officer safety, officer safety. You hear us talk about that all the time, or we mention it all the time. Drones just enhance officer safety. It could slow down a situation, slow down an incident, and just enhances officer safety. So, and with me personally, on why that just intrigued me, I've always been more of on the technology side. I grew up in the upcoming of technology. You guys are now being born and walking into Instagram being thrown on your lap. At my time, it was AOL being developed, AIM, and even Facebook, MySpace. That was just all up in beginning, especially from high school to college. So we started dabbling in that, and I've always been one to teeter with, if I had a car stereo and my clunker back in high school, would be putting it in, or wiring stereo equipment for my house, or my own room. Just, you had the loudest sound system, or back then everybody had a subwoofer in their car. We were always trying to hook it up. So we were always just interested in that. I was always interested in that. And then throughout my years through college and when I got to the police department, I always wanted to find ways of bringing new technology or utilizing new technology into the department. And then, so that's how my background kind of brought me to drones.
What was it like to do training and take the test to be certified?
The certification, what we do at the police department is we try to utilize an outside company, and we sit down and we'll do a 107 class. That's the license that you need. So we'll sit down. They have a in-person 107 class that we sit. They tell us about all the rules, regulations. A lot of this stuff, maybe as a high school, you might know. A lot of science, a lot of coordinates, latitude, longitude. You got to talk about weather. Safety is a lot of them, risk management. So we do a lot of that. Sit down, and they give you a opportunity to then study everything. You take just like here, they give you the information, but it's just how you retain the information. So after the class, you just study. And then whenever you feel comfortable, you get ready, you take the test. So I was able to take it, pass it on the first try. A lot of our guys, actually all of our guys, we've been sat down in the course called Dart Drones. They do public safety, they do consumer, they do hobbyists. If you're ever looking for your license, they do a great job. And then they also do a basic flight. I did the basic flight class. And at that time, I was already involved with the drones a little bit, kind of felt it is pretty novice. If you guys are starting right off, have never touched a drone, I recommend taking it. So we do those 2 courses. Right now we've scaled back on the basic flight. Myself and the other 2 pilots, Officer Dan Main and Sergeant Abascaroon, we feel that we can train our officers when we expand, or we train each other on things about the drone or how to fly the drone, and stuff that we learn along the way, because it's all trial and error. Just like driving a car, you start off small in a nice public lot or an open lot. We just do the same thing. We find an open space, you fly it around, you see your capabilities, then you start going out there out into the road in a car, and we start flying around trees, right above trees. We work on our height altitude, 400 feet to 0 feet, excuse me, not 0, about 50 feet. And so it's just all about, repetition and getting on what we call the sticks, which is just your controller. So, and then that's how we kind of come about, when we're always still learning. There's always new technology enhancing. So it's, get onto the platforms that are talking about it right now, and you read about it and you learn about it.
How do you like working with a BPD?
Guys, police departments and police everywhere, it's the best job ever. What you can do is you can always find something that interests you. State police and bigger departments have a lot of avenues. Small departments like myself, they have avenues too. I've been in patrol for about 14 years. I just got moved over to the detectives. So, and it's a complete different world, 2 different aspects of policing. So patrol, you got one thing, and then even with patrol, there's different avenues. Drone, we have traffic, we have our detective unit. There's a lot of components to policing that you can do, and every day is not the same. So if you like getting out there and moving around, every day is not the same. A call will never be exactly like another call. So it keeps you motivated, keeps you interested, keeps you on your toes. So it is one of the best jobs out there. I highly recommend if anybody ever wanted to get into it.
Is there anything special about the drones you use?
So our drones come with the same kind of capabilities as a consumer one or anybody can pick up off the street. But when we focus on more of a police drone, we need IR capability, we need thermal capability, we need to be able to see at night. So that's where those come in. We need to be able to zoom in from a distance. We need to be able to be quiet. We need to have everything encrypted. We can't have people hijacking our drones. So there is a lot of aspects for our drones personally. Then you would get off the street. We need to be able to see further without being detected, or being able to get somewhere where another drone wouldn't be able to do, as we've done before in the past, or that video that you saw on the news. So let me just make sure I got everything. So, and also, like, we need to be able to fly at all times. So our drone needs to be capable of high winds, rugged, sand, wind, rain, snow. It just needs to be able to perform in any type of element. So we like to look at it as if there's a missing kid in any type of weather and we can't put our drone up, it obviously it decreases. It's a piece of the puzzle that we don't get to have when we're looking for either a small child, a missing elderly, or anybody that we're helping to look for. So.
Have you bought more police drones since Mr. Wong last visited?
We have not. We haven't bought anything else. We still have our 2 DJI Mavic 2 Dual Enterprise. That's the ones that they sell to the police. And then we have a Skydio drone. That's a consumer drone that you can just buy. Anybody in here can buy. So we still have those ones. We're trying to work to getting an advancement in our technology. Right now, technology is just advancing. You guys probably all have an iPhone 10. As soon as you bought the 10, the 11 was out. As soon as the 11 got updated, the 12 was out. So that's what we're looking at. So we're always looking to either buy new equipment or advancements, but again, everything costs money, and so we gotta wait, work it out, and we're looking for grants, we're looking for anybody that wants to be a special donor or anything like that, but most of the time we're out there looking for grants to see if there's a lot of them out there with Homeland Security that would specialize in purchasing a new UAS or drone.
Would the police ever contract with other drone operators, or do drone operators have to be police officers?
There is the capability of being contracting out for drones or drone operators. If we need, if a police department can't afford that, they contact a company that has a number of drones with bigger capabilities. They call them out, but right now drones are up and coming. A lot of departments are getting the grants and developing programs. Us at BPD, we like to have all our pilots be officers. It helps know our policies better, standard operating procedures better. We know the laws better, and limitations and where we fall into those. So just having that background behind the sticks or behind the controller is much more beneficial for a police department.
How concerned are you about people flying drones dangerously?
That concern is with the concern of like any type of vehicle. So if anybody wants to drive recklessly or fly a drone recklessly, boat recklessly, that concern's always there. Drones, just because they're small, weigh less, but as soon as you get a little bit of velocity behind them, they can cause big damage to property, to people. It's on the Department of Justice's, state police, federal, everywhere's radar on where they can go, what somebody can do with them in the wrong hands. So counter UAS is huge in the drone market right now. A lot of companies are focusing on counter UAS, which would help with taking a drone down, identifying the drone if it's just flying by and we think that it's flying, say, over the common during an event that's not supposed to be there. Police and or other consumers can identify that drone rather quickly with the new remote ID that the FAA has put out. So there's always risk. There's risk with a lot of things in police equipment as well. And there's always risk with consumer equipment. So it's always on the radar, and detection, and hopefully people with the right paperwork is, things of that matter, in line, so that way we can reduce that risk.
Do police drones differ from regular drones?
Like I said earlier, ours will come, like a lot of them, like if you get on one company that sells it one way, they might sell, like we'll sell the Enterprise, or the Mavic 2 Enterprise will sell with a higher encryption, for that way no one can take over your drone. The data that's being sent back to the cloud is encrypted, so no one can just hijack your data. There's thermal capability that's better for us. They might do a higher resolution or for police drones compared to the consumer model. They might have some companies might do a bigger zoom, as in 8 to 10 compared to the 2 to 4 that they might sell a regular consumer, because we're working at different missions. A consumer might be just taking pictures of a wedding and they don't need to be up 400 feet looking at a 40 optical zoom, but we might want to do that. So there's different capabilities on why we want to do that. We'd like to be a little bit quieter, a little less noticeable, especially if we're doing an overwatch on a large scale event. And between the thermals, the zoom, and again the ruggedized ones. They do sell ruggedized ones, but they make them, I guess, more ruggedized for police. That way we can withstand the extreme temperatures, the snow, the wind, the sand, rain, especially up in New England. It's not going to be, it could be sunny tomorrow, and the next day it's raining, then it can go back to snow, and then it can go back to sun. So we need to be able to put our drone up every day. So.
And that's it for the questions.
That's it for the questions, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So do you guys have any questions for, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so my question is how do you balance an invasion of privacy, I guess, with drones, in case you're on a call or something? Is there laws you guys have to follow?
Yes, we can't. So whenever we're flying, and how we combat it is, if we're flying somewhere, we don't record while we're flying up over people's homes. So we're not recording anybody's backyards or anything like that. If we're in a large scale event, say there's an exigency or an emergency situation, we're looking for a child. If that child can walk behind your fence and we can pop over and look because of the emergency situation, we can do that with a drone as well, because we're working under an emergency situation. So there's one example on how we could do that. Other than that, our department, we're fully transparent. What we can do is our cloud-based system where we restore or put all our data. It shows where our camera's pointed. It shows where our drone is, where our camera's pointing, the height that we're at, everything's logged. So if you say, hey, you were over my house, and I say I'm not, my drone will show either I am or I'm not. So it's gonna say, oh, my fault, or you were recording me, and I could say, I don't have the video of it, show that there's no video of it, Or I can say that no, as my drone's up over your house, I'm pointed this way looking not at your house. So we have I guess checks and balances on how we combat, because there's always going to be privacy issues, and especially when something's up in the air, like a drone, a helicopter, an airplane, like things like that, hovering. There's always that. But we just make sure that we safeguard what we do, in the sense of like what's logged, how we're logging it. So that way, if you come up the next day and you're saying, hey, this XYZ, I can say, okay, here's the data. So, anybody else? Yeah.
How fast do the police drones go?
So right now, ours can probably do up about 40 in the air. There's some that can go up to about 60 to 70 and all the way up to 100. But right now, if we wanted to just go straight shot, up in the air, we're doing about 40 with the wind behind us, 42, 43. And then, but right now there are drones that can go to about 60 miles per hour. So, am I just calling on them, or you want to?
Yeah, another question I had is, are you guys ever afraid of like flying like into something?
Yes, there's always the risk, and have we done it? Yeah, into a tree or anything like that, because that's how we learn. But there's always that risk. But that's when we do our checklist, our pre-flight checklist, we make sure that there's no magnetic interference. We make sure that the trees are away. We'll look around. The drone will tell us if something's wrong within the drone, either the camera, the magnetic interference, the compass, all that. If something's off, then we got to recalibrate, either move to a new area to make sure it's safe for us to fly. So we have a checklist that pretty much we have to make sure that we check all the boxes. We check the props, we check the camera, there's no dents, the battery looks good, battery's full, the controller has juice. So we go through a pretty elaborate checklist, make sure before we fly that the drone's in working order. Drone's in working order, then it's going to come down to the pilot. So if that drone goes off into a building or anything like that, then you're going to be like, okay, where was the issue? So, and then that's how we deal with that.
Magnetic interference, what is that?
So we fly on compasses inside there, GPS or frequency. Magnetic interference is just the magnetized ground around us. So an example right here would be the rocks in the back where you guys paint your names. That has something in it that I'm sure that there's a scientific teacher here that can tell you. But within those rocks, it makes a magnetic interference, almost like something in the air that messes with the controller. Rock can do it, concrete, and metal rods, and even just other electronics. So we want to try and find an area where we take off that it won't interfere. So if we flew out in the back, I'd want to come either right in the middle, because maybe the school won't give off that much magnetic interference, but I'm assuming those rocks would probably give us a little bit of a problem. So when that tells us to do that, you'll see some yellow lights blinking on the drone. Our controller will say compass error, and then we'll just have to take it to another area and recalibrate it, and then go from there.
What if like you're like in like live action and then like something goes wrong? Do you still have to like stop and like recalibrate everything? Or do you...
So if we notice something that's off, and we can tell, I felt personally that if you can move the controllers and it just doesn't move properly, or you're trying to move the camera and it's slower or it's jumpy, I would say, you'd start to see that. So then that way you kill the mission, or you stop your mission, you bring it down, recalibrate it, make sure everything's good, and come back up. Sometimes you get a remote lost link and the drone might just fly away. So at that point, you try to do your best to keep on the controls. We can use an example. This hasn't happened to Burlington PD, but if it's going over a big crowd, you have the ability to kill the engine and just let it fall. So if you're in a safe area, you can just let it fall. It might stink because you're going to lose your drone, but your drone compared to a laceration of a head from a spectator or a couple spectators, obviously we'll try to replace the drone, but we wouldn't want that to happen. So something we would have to take. We always have precautions. We have visual observers. So if I'm flying and say Steven's flying with me, and I'm on the controls or looking at the screen, he's going to say, hey, your drone's starting to drift, and they shouldn't drift. If it's depending on the wind, if it's not 20 mile to 30 mile per hour wind up there, it should stay right in place. And if it's starting to drift, then maybe something's going wrong with it. So we might look at the compass again, bring it down, recalibrate, put it back up. That takes a matter of 5 minutes. So
you guys probably remember that, like, usually before we fly, I usually have, one of you guys hold the controller, and then we have to kind of like rotate the drone and then orient. You guys remember how we done that? Yeah, so that's part of the process. And then sometimes if we take off from the circle, how there's like that one bench there. So usually I don't put it right on the bench because there's like magnetic interference, because as Officer Costa says, there's probably something in the stone or whatever that has like magnetic material, and that's what prevents you from taking off from there. And it will tell you, on the controller.
So do your drones also have that thing? Mr. Wong, you have that drone where you can use like your hand. It makes it
Yeah, so
look like
we have
you're
a
using
Mavic
force.
Air where you can kind of like, it detects your hand. You can kind of like sort of do.
yeah,
Do you have those types of drones?
we don't have that drone. I know which one you're talking about. That's more of the consumer stuff. We don't. If we're doing a mission, one person hands on the control, one person's watching it, and we're normally at either an incident command or a command post and flying it somewhere else. So that's how we're normally dealing with our.
So when you're flying a drone, it's like you with the controls, and then either Officer Main or Sergeant. What was his
a
name?
Bascaroon.
A Bascaroon.
Yep.
It's either like, so you'll be flying the drones, and the other two might be like looking to see if it's like
Yep.
not drifting or doing what's
Yep.
supposed
So a visual observer, he just, you're pretty much there to observe. You observe the drone, you observe the surroundings around you, depending on the situation. If we're in a busy area, we can cone it off. We can cone off our area and our landing zone as best as possible, but people still walk up. People still going to ask questions. So as I'm flying or concentrating on the drone, he might be concentrating on around me, or I'm flying, he's concentrating on the drone. We have somebody else concentrating around us. So it's a team aspect of it. That way we can either see if it's drifting. Big thing is if we see another aircraft. Sometimes, especially this area, med flight comes over all the time with Leahy Clinic. So if we're flying, we'll already notify at the FAA and the control tower in Hanscom, but sometimes, they're coming in on an emergency, they're coming in. So if they're coming lower, he's going to say, okay, we'll know, you'll hear it and you'll know it, say a helicopter coming in from the north or to your left. So all we'll do is we'll just reduce height, fly out of there, reduce height. If it's coming close to us, we'll just land. No matter where it is, we'll just land. So UASs or drones have to yield to the bigger ones. They're not going to fly up to get out of our way. So we got to get out of their way.
There are police drones also like black and white, like the cruisers.
No, we just, as we buy it, that's what the color. So that one right there, that's the exact color we have. We have a Sky Dio, which is blue, and so some departments do. You can get skins for them and just cover it up, and then they could make it black or white, or they could spray paint it if they needed to with big police on it. I know a lot of them do come like that, so we just don't do that.
Is this town the only station with a drone, or can you name any other towns?
Other towns that have them, Tewksbury has them, State Police has them. Boston has a drone unit. Boston Fire, I believe, Rentham. Chelmsford's they're going to be starting one. Woburn's going to be starting one. I believe Quincy. So a lot of them are coming up because in the grand scheme of money, they're not huge, depending on what you buy, but it's a valuable tool for any department to have. So
how far can you fly those things before you lose control? Like the range?
The range, we can get about 2.5 miles before we start, and that's just. And when I say that's a straight shot. We got to be up high and then straight, nothing else around. At night we can see the beacon, and during the day we can see it too. But that will go 2.5 miles on a straight shot. But if there's a tree in the way, that's going to limit your range. You might have to elevate. So I know we go over the res. When we fly over the res, we can get all the way around the res. Not a problem. So that's our range. But there's some out there, I think 5 miles, 5.5 to 6 miles that they're advertising as. So, and then when you do that far, you got to have a beacon on it. You always have to be able to know what your drone is. So when you're looking out there and you see the little flashing light, you know where it is. You see a helicopter or anything, you can lower. So there's a lot of aspects that go with that.
And just to let you guys know, we've talked about this a little bit, but so the term is visual line of sight. So for us, we have to be able to see it. Like as long as we can see it, even though it's kind of far away, as long as we can still identify in the sky, then that's technically legal, right? But with the police department, you all can fly beyond visual line of sight, is that correct?
You can, that's when it will come into waivers and stuff like that. Oh, I don't recommend going outside of your comfort level or outside of your scope of practice.
And it would be illegal for us.
Yep.
So I'm sort of making a distinction that with the police, they kind of have authorization to do that.
Yeah. Other towns, there are other departments like DOT sometimes can get beyond visual line of sight waivers, especially if they're inspecting railroads. And you got 3 miles straight shot of railroad, so they might do that. But as long as you have waivers to fly over people at night in airspace, controlled airspace, beyond visual line of sight, close proximity. So there's waivers for all that. So.
So do you have like your own personal armory for like drones in the station?
We have a nice little, we have a cage that we call it, that we lock up, and we have our drones and our charging station in there. So that way all the batteries are charged when we get a call. We grab the drone, we grab the batteries, pack it all up and go. Kind of like a go bag. We wouldn't call it an armory, so just have a drone cage. You had a question, right?
Yeah, so my question was, like, how often are drones actually deployed and used by the police force?
My opinion, they can probably use weekly to not, if not daily. You got a crash, you want to take a picture of that crash, get up there and take a photo of it. You have, so something as little as that. We've used it for the town to inspect water towers. We have used it to take pictures of just the, for the town. That's just some of the small stuff. So you can use it weekly. As soon as you start getting creative with it, if you have a bigger crash, you can use the mapping software. If you wanted to do, there's always training that you should be doing with it. Get up there, fly at 300 feet, turn around a bunch of times, have it fly behind you. So there's always training and stuff like that. But realistically, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on, we have 3 guys. So if he's working, I'm working, because I work days, one works 4 to 12, and the sergeant works days. So it all depends on the availability of the drone and the availability of the pilots. So.
You guys have any other questions? I have one other question. I don't know if I follow the news about drones a lot. So I know there's been kind of this concern because DJI is, I guess, kind of the biggest company in terms of drones.
Yep.
There's concern about could China be collecting information, through the drones? Like, do you have any concerns about that, or do you feel like it's just kind of overblown because of politics, whatever? But if you can.
I'm sure that their politics and have inflated a little bit. From a department like us, is there always a concern for somebody encrypting or trying to hack something? Yes. But do I believe that the government of party of China stealing Burlington stuff? Maybe not so much. But does the DOJ, Department of Defense, and even down to our Mass DOT, are they worried about possibly mapping out the Zakum Bridge and that being sent over to China and being sold on the black market? That's a highly possibility. Boston PD maps Fenway Park. State police can map Gillette. Is that a issue with safety and security? I would believe so. So you want that encrypted. Personally, for the BPD, we have the Mavic. I'm not too concerned about our missions. If we're doing any type of mapping mission or anything like that, I'm not really concerned about that. But moving forward, there's called the Blue AS Initiative. Department of Defense said, hey, these companies here, and now they're doing 2.0, which another 5 companies that are now up to their standards on encryption and safety and security. So we're going to be looking more towards that. Plus, too, I like going to local coffee shops, and so I like to stick with the homemade as best as possible. So, but right now, not too huge concern. But every now and then, if we're inspecting the water tower, maybe. But anytime that you need the drone units to come out, you guys all want to fly, or we can show off our capabilities. Especially if we do move forward, and enhance our capabilities, some of the stuff that we can do, and maybe you guys can help us out. We're always looking to partner, either having our drones and you guys having a drone here at the high school. It's always, it's always a good collaboration to help PD and the school to come together and figure something out to do. So, no, thank you.